welcome to our YouTube channel. So today the Career Development Center presents our career panel series highlighting the technology field. If you're just joining our YouTube channel for the first time, we also had a career panel series not too long ago regarding the education field if you want to check that one out. So today we have great things for you. We have bunch of panelists lined up to share so much information with you all. And if you stay tuned to the ends of the video, we will share some of the majors at LaGuardia that will lead you to some of these career paths, and as well share some labor market information that could benefit you later. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cheryl De La Cruz, and I'm the Career Program Specialist for the Career Development Center, a program of the Adult and Continuing Education Division at LaGuardia Community College. I just want to say thank you to all our panelists for volunteering your time today, and of course to all our students for logging on. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and we hope that you get a lot of information out of this. I also want to introduce our co-moderator, Carolyn Nobles, the director of the Career Development Center.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carolyn Nobles. I am the director of the Career Development Center at LaGuardia Community College. And I just want to thank you all for logging in to our Tech Career Panel. We offer these career panels monthly, really to help our students in adult and continuing education explore various sectors, and this particular sector that we're talking about today is our technology sector. I really want to thank our panelists for participating, and I hope you guys really enjoy our panel. Thank you.
Without further ado, if the panelists can please introduce yourself, please share your title and briefly describe your role.
My name is Sajal Backus. I'm a client support engineer at Abacus Group. We're basically concentrated on hosted applications. So basically my role is hosted applications with our vendors in our Citrix environment. So basically remote work. So anything that has to do with you logging in remotely to get your job done from home, from vacation houses, from a beach home, wherever, I'm responsible for that environment.
So, hi, my name is Kelly, and I am a UX designer at a publishing house. I work primarily on the digital educational services for that publishing house, or any of their educational software tools, things that integrate with LMSs and eBooks. And I also teach full stack web development or front end web development specifically to incoming UX designers.
Hi, so my name's Angie. I'm from New York, and I recently moved to LA about almost a year. And so I'm based by Venice at Artemis Labs, and we work on developer tools and testing tools for React, GraphQL, kind of making a transition from RESTful architectures through like testing on like Chrome or Electron apps. And then I also do like freelance.
My name is Ilya Polokin. I run Habneu Virtual Reality Lab here in downtown New York. And our business, we basically design and produce motion simulators for virtual reality. And at the same time, we run this VR center in Lower East Side, Manhattan, where people come in and they can try the best of the best in virtual reality.
Awesome. So we spoke about where you guys are right now, and many of our students take different paths and getting to achieve their goals, right? We all take different paths to get where we want to go. And I think it's important for us to kind of share those journeys and how you all got where you are, and our students all take, of course, their different journeys to achieve their goals. And I think sometimes it's really important for us to kind of share how we got where we are. Which segues into my question of, did you go to college? If so, what was your major? If not, what was the route that you took to get where you are? And what made you get into this role, the roles that you are in now? So that was a loaded question. What was your major in college? And what what was your journey and what led you to where you are now? So if Sajada, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. So yes, I did go to college. I actually went to the University at Albany. While I was there, I was studying computer systems technology and computer programming. However, I would say about my sophomore year, or whatever, I kind of figured out like computer programming wasn't for me. That's just because like I just got tired of like writing programming language and all of that stuff. When I was in high school, I used to take a keen into like QBasic, COBOL, C++. That's all different programming languages. However, when I got to college, I just noticed that spending my time like looking into the future, like working at a desk like 8 to 9 hours a day, I didn't want to be behind the desk just writing language and all of that stuff. And anybody that's been doing programming, programming languages is kind of crazy because you could have like the perfect code, but then something like a period or a comma can mess up your whole thing, semicolon, just doing the programming languages. So I really didn't have time to, I won't say figure that out or troubleshooting, but just doing that process, I was just like, you know what, this is not for me. So I actually changed my major into information science just because it was just like a broad scope. It didn't like focus on one thing or whatever. So it was really something that I had like a itch to just figure out what I wanted to do at during that time. So it gave me to experience like different areas inside of it, which came like information security or like networking, just a whole lot of different things. So when I did graduate, I had graduated with my BA in information science with a minor in business. And I'm not gonna lie, after I graduated, it was kind of hard just to try and get like an entry role in like the technology field. I didn't do any like internships or anything like that. What I did do is just like I just had a couple friends like networking with, and I got into a consulting company called RCC at the time, which basically was just a company that handed out contractors to other companies. So while I was doing that, I was actually working with like Chase and Goldman Sachs doing like server work, server maintenance, doing break fix tickets, like just regular stuff like, oh, my keyboard is not working, checking out the USB, just simple entry level stuff. And while I was doing that and getting to know people inside of like the Chase Corporation and Goldman Sachs, I would just say how can I put this? I would say that the best knowledge is your hands-on experience. So I learned more like in the field working there than I did in the classroom and stuff, because everything evolves and all of this stuff. And plus, when I started, like people were using like Blackberries was the biggest thing there for communications and stuff like that. People had a BlackBerry for the phone, for their emails and all of that things. But basically, everybody knows that's obsolete now. But just showing you like how technology just transforms and everything. So because of that, I had gotten into major roles. I moved from the consulting company and got hired by Goldman Sachs directly, was doing their stuff with their steady state team and all of that thing. And while I was there, I worked there for about 3 years. My ceiling kind of reached from there and everything, and I was just trying to find something new to do. While I was there, I actually did get promoted to like a team lead. They put me in the afternoons just because it's easier to work with traders are not there. So I did like the 4 to midnight shift, because if you work in like the hedge funds or anybody that deals with like trading, those people get kind of antsy during the training day. So even if they have things that need fixed, like a Cisco phone, their PC, their systems, logging in, they will always tell you, hey, just come back after the day is done. But when you do that, that's normally your cutoff time too. So you don't really have time to try and do that. So they basically gave us a new role where I was the lead at that time. So from 4 p.m. to 12, whatever tickets couldn't get done during the day, I picked up and did it in the afternoon. However, I felt like my ceiling was growing and I was reaching the cap there. At that time, I was just reaching out to like my friends, seeing what they were doing. And I got this opportunity with like a kind of startup company at the time called Abacus Group, which I work with now. They had started in like 2008. And when I joined, it was like 2013. We only had 2 offices at that time, one in one in New York, and the major one is San Francisco, California, because it's actually a California company that was started, but they branched out to New York. And their thing was basically just providing IT support to like hedge funds and equity firms. So um, basically any type of company that's basically involves in trading or private equity and stuff like that, we was providing IT support for them. During that time when I was there, we as a new hire and everything, we only had about probably like 20 people in the company, so we did everything. I'm talking about we went to the client meetings, we went on site to the office to fix things, we did remote work, everything. But as we continued to grow and work and like open up new offices and stuff like that, my role began to change and things like that. I moved from a person that was doing everything to just helping out, scope out like Abacus Help Desk, which actually moved to Texas when we had opened up an office in Texas. And because of that opportunity, I actually lived in Texas for 2 years, getting that process rolled out and everything. And while I was in Dallas, there was we was also exploring other options of offices to go. So we actually opened up an office in LA. We also opened one in the United Kingdom. And I was sent over to the UK, which I spent like the last 18 months before coming back to New York, just helping out doing the process there. But while I was there, we had a new vendor that came in. Basically, with that vendor, what they did, they do like forex exchange. They exchange currencies and stuff. But they was looking for a platform because they don't do any type of hardware. So they wanted to make sure that the software is able to run on our system and everything, so they can basically resell their products to their clients and basically have us support the issue. But all of that stuff was going to be done remotely. So this is how it came into the what I do now, which is basically hosted applications vendor and all of that stuff. So basically, I work with our three-party vendors with their services and software, what they do, make sure it works in our system, our infrastructure, and roll that out to their clients when they're ready to onboard a new client and everything, so they can work remotely. That's done through things like Citrix and all of that stuff. So that's how my journey began. So I'm back here now in New York. Been living here for a couple of months now. Been here in New York. I live in Queens now. And that's basically the process of what I've been doing.
Jad, it seems as though technology has taken, it's not a straight line, right?
Definitely.
And it's taken you all over and in different departments, which I think is great. Before we allow someone else to share, we have another panelist who just tuned in. So I just want to give Khalil a chance to introduce himself to the panel. Kind of briefly tell everyone your title, what you do. And then I guess you can answer the same question that Sajjad just answered, which was basically what led you into your role, and how did you get there, and what was like your major in college and things of that nature.
First, sorry I'm late. My name is Khalil Nobles. I'm currently an IP attorney, which stands for intellectual property at Wilkie Farr and Gallagher LLP. It's an international law firm here in New York City. My current role is a mix of technology and law. So I'm a technologist and an engineer first, who happens to be a lawyer. And what I currently do is I support our corporate mergers and acquisitions team from a technology and from an intellectual property standpoint when there is a transaction going on. What that means in layman's terms is if one of our clients wants to buy or sell a company, I look through their copyrights, which are their rights to, books and software, their trademarks, which is their logos, their patents, which are their inventions, their trade secrets, which are the same thing like the WD-40 formula or like the KFC recipe, right? And their domain names, which are their websites. And I make sure that there's no issues from a technological or an IP standpoint. Prior to being an attorney at SUNY Albany, I majored in a combination of computer science and information science. I started out as a full computer science major, but then I realized that I would only be able to write code with that. It didn't seem too focused on people and business. and I've always liked to talk and to work with some type of client as their advisor. So I switched it into more of an information science with a mix of computer science. So that meant that I would still do everything like learn how to code and learn how to build software, but I would learn how to do it from a business perspective. And I would learn how to treat information and add value to different businesses from a technology standpoint. So while in college, I actually did a combined bachelor's and master's. So I got my bachelor's and master's in roughly 5.5 years. And while there, I interned for DASNY, which is the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, as a construction technology analyst. So what that basically meant was they had a bunch of software that they needed to use to track their projects. And what DASNY does is they build a lot of the dorms within the state. And they also issue bonds to the state for that same purpose. So if LaGuardia decides to build dorms, that is probably going to be the state agency that's going to build those dorms by or with the college. From there, I interned for the Office of Mental Health and Disability, as it was called back then, and I essentially rewrote their website so that it was ADA compliant, so that folks who were either blind or deaf or both could still make use of their website. From there, I graduated and I worked for former Governor David Patterson as one of his IT support people. So that was everything like supporting the Blackberries that Sajat hates so much, to making sure that their video conferencing worked. We supported 3 different offices in New York City, Washington, and Albany, about 300 users, and there was only 5 of us. So we had to keep a full network running. So in that role, I learned how to do everything from wire internet to support Blackberries to rebuild desktops. It was a really hands-on job, to also maintaining the full web environment for those offices. And it was scary being, 23 and being in such a tense environment, but I learned a lot because I really didn't have a lot of people to kind of fall back on. And that kind of environment, if you push the button and something goes wrong, there's no rolling it back. Like you have to, figure out a quick fix. And in that environment, I've gotten a pager call at 3 a.m. in Albany because something in Harlem was down. And then I have to get up and log in remotely and go, switch by switch and test things to make sure that they work. But that gave me a lot of grit, and it really helped me learn how to deal with, the pressures of succeeding in that type of role. From there, I was a management consultant in New Jersey for a small company called BCT Partners. And in that role, I helped to build and support a product called CSEP, which is the Senior Community Service Employment Project. So that's a grant that's through the Federal Department of Labor. And I built the website and helped support the software that supported that project. So what that project is senior citizens can apply for employment through that project, and we help track the grants and help them state by state, grantee, grantor, any agency that was a part of that program used our software to track their population's participation in that program. And I was one of the people that helped to maintain the software and also maintain the help desk. So I built the website and I helped to test new versions of that software. From there, I'm almost done. I'm sorry, it's such a long story, but from there, I went to a company called Tagman, and I was a support engineer there, where Tagman sold tracking software to a lot of marketing type clients. So DirecTV, a lot of drug companies. If you go on these websites and they start to offer you, different services, or they offer you different T-shirts, it's because people like me put software on the website that will then literally track every click that you do through the website so that we can pay advertisers. So I would test websites to make sure that the software worked. And after that job was when I went to law school. And after my first year in law school, I was an intern at IBM, where I supported the product teams that built things like Watson that you may have heard of, and a lot of the things you see on TV. I helped to support those now from a legal perspective when I was at IBM to make sure that they didn't run afoul of any legal constraints that we had for them. And I'm sorry, what was the question that you had for me? Did I answer the question or was I just talking?
Hello, yes, you answered the question. Thank you so much.
Okay.
That was awesome. Did anyone else want to share from any of our panelists?
I can share a little bit because it's not the traditional, I guess, tech role background, and it isn't geared towards computer science or IT. So I guess my background goes all the way back to high school. I went to a technical vocational high school and I majored in fashion design. Really liked fashion design. Didn't like actually producing a fashion show, which we did for senior year. I hated that. And I decided to go to college for graphic design and illustration. I spent a few years in college. I went to Kingsborough and graduated in 2014 and got my associates in graphic design and illustration. And I was really into illustration for a very long time and I loved it. Decided to go to City Tech to get my bachelor's in communication design. And they have 5 different minors that you can do. And the one that I didn't have any experience in was web design. And I'm a traditional artist at this point. So I was really doing sketching and painting. I was doing 3D sculptures and building molds. So I went into web design as my minor and had to learn how to do not only digital art, but also I had to learn how to code. The longest 2 years of my entire life that I've ever had. It was a very difficult struggle. There were times where I didn't know what I was designing, nor did I know what I was coding, and I had to put up websites in order to get grades. I did that for about 2.5 years, graduated in 2017. And out of my entire curriculum, the only 2 things that I really enjoyed doing actually when I got out was UX design and coding. I decided I wasn't really good at coding, so I wanted to go ahead and learn a little bit more about it. So I joined the Tech Hire Open Code program at LaGuardia, and I did their partnership with Software Guild and did full stack web development. And then I also did the CUNY Tech Works UX design bootcamp. They had at Kingsborough at the time. So I did those at the same time. Also, don't recommend that, but I was used to the pressure coming from being a traditional artist to a web designer. And once I graduated, I had to figure out how to get a job now, being that I had no specific, I guess you can say, lockdown role in my field that I wanted to be in. I had no long-term experience in it whatsoever. The one thing that I think did lead me to my current job now is that I was always freelancing and taking on projects while I was in school. I took on an internship where I was supposed to quote unquote help a professor with their Blackboard classes, and it turned into it was a semester long internship, and it turned into a 4-year long job of me actually producing content and managing Blackboard classes and doing all the back end stuff and coordinating with the product that they were using, which was Cengage, and coordinating with Blackboard. And really, the professor had no hands-on experience with the computer. That was all me. That actually led me to my role that I'm in now. When I was interviewing, they were looking at my resume and they saw that I had Blackboard experience, which is one of the products that we work. And they were just like, okay, that's something different that you don't see on everyone's resume. So that was one thing that led me to my role now. And it did allow me to be able to be a full-time UX designer, which is what I always wanted to do since I graduated from my boot camps. And I would say that the front-end development job came from the fact that when I took my CUNY Tech Works program, the UX design one, we had no web development course, and I was the first cohort. So it was the inaugural course, and we were the first ones there. And we had no web design instructor or course. And once they got into cohort 2, they were looking for someone. They knew that I had full stack web development experience, and they were just like, hey, do you have a bachelor's degree? I said, yeah, I do. And they were just like, do you want to teach this course? You're not really teaching how to code, you're teaching designers how to understand code. And I was just like, well, yeah, I guess that works. I'm a designer. I know code, so I can figure it out. And I ended up creating my own course and writing my own curriculum. And I've done that for the past actually it's almost 2 years now. So I've done that for 2 years now, and I really like that job. So that's one of my favorites. And that's it for me.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that's a really interesting experience that you had, Kelly. The next question that I wanted to ask is, we're all living through this pandemic of COVID, and I'm curious to know, what do you predict will happen within the next 5 to 10 years within the tech field, especially now that we're living through COVID and it's really changing the employment industry and really the jobs that are in demand? Anyone can start to answer.
Okay, can I start?
Sure.
So yeah, I think like fortunately, but also like obviously like this is like a horrible pandemic, but like I think fortunately for the tech industry, we are probably gonna like be the ones who are gonna end up like thriving, no matter like what kind of background you come from, whether it be like non-tech or tech. But I think we're gonna see like a huge shift, and we see this now with like the whole like the media, like the contact tracing, and like in general, like in politics too. We're gonna see like this huge movement into like decentralization and kind of more like blockchain and kind of like diversifying the way we like structure our apps and like architect our systems and kind of go more distributed, just because I think a lot of people are like having like we're noticing all of these issues about censorship and just like surveillance, and so I think this industry is gonna like surge.
I think now the shift is definitely going into a situation where before a lot of the companies wanted people to be physically in the office, and now I'm seeing over like the last month or so, a lot more people are saying fully remote jobs are okay. And one of the fastest growing jobs I've seen in the tech space are a combination of anyone who can do like the UI work, UX work, which is user experience, anyone who can code, especially around technology. So, Ruby on Rails, certain types of coding technologies are in very high demand, but also those who can kind of work all hours, right? So we're in a situation where right now, you can work bi-coastal, supporting the West and the East Coast. That's definitely high in demand. And anyone who understands how to deal with technology, especially technologies, because right now there's a huge push to strengthen network security. There's a huge push to make a lot of tech and just general companies more tech friendly and more able to handle a workforce that is not working. If it's 500 people working remotely, someone has to be able to sit behind the scenes in an office and make sure that everyone has enough computing power to get the job done effectively, during these current times.
I was going to say that definitely to the point of decentralization, going from a moment where companies are learning more to invest in tech and gearing more towards that, but they were still going at a slow pace, to overnight having them realize, okay, if my thing isn't working and it isn't online and people can't access it, then it's going to affect everyone and everything. At our job, we went from expecting a certain amount of users for our product that we've been working on for a year. In 1 week, we projected the amount of users to triple, and we had to push up our release date. And it's something where we had to reevaluate, is our server going to be able to handle this? Do we have single sign-on security? Like it was a lot it's still a lot that we're dealing with and thinking about right now. And to a certain extent in tech, our department is the product department at my job, and we're the only department in our company whose work has tripled since we've been home. So it's one of those things where I think now companies will definitely start to invest in the movement towards tech a lot faster. They were, but it was still kind of like a slow, steady pace. Like it was still just like the basic and the bare minimum. and overnight that changed. So
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, what everybody's saying is just like with the shift in technology, basically like a lot of cloud-based technology is going to be more advanced now. Just because, believe it or not, some clients still had on-premise on-premise hardware and stuff inside of their offices, and they were being really slow about like, hey, I need everything in the office. I just need to be able to access stuff. I need to know that it's there. But now with like offices shut down and stuff like that, they're just like, hey, what's going on with Office 365? What's going on with Amazon Web Services? What's going on with Azure? Like everybody's just trying to see how to move their stuff from on site to somewhere off in the cloud and stuff like that. So cloud technology is a big increase. We've seen it happening with COVID. We've seen people moving off. If they were slow about it before, now everybody's wrapping up to see what's going on. How can we get onto there? What is the very feasible place and all of that stuff. So that's how I think offices is going to be obsolete. Well, not obsolete, but like not everybody's going to need to be in the office. If you can actually do your role from home or anywhere, you're probably going to have more like staggered shifts where you'll see somebody come in maybe twice a week to the office and then do the 3 days at home or something like that. You're going to see that change in that.
Thank you, Sajad. So Ilya, I'm curious to know, coming from the virtual reality department side of things, how do you feel like, what are some of the changes or challenges going on in your side of things?
I guess the challenge for virtual reality industry now in general is how to satisfy the demand. Right, so the problem is that the technology is a perfect fit for out of home work. And for instance, we know that the Quest, which is the first mobile headset, which became kind of a mass product, has been sold out for a few weeks now. And not only people want to work in virtual reality, they also want to exercise in virtual reality and do other things they can do with the COVID situation. But going back to the business side of things, in general, I think many companies did not realize, and many industries did not realize how ready they are for this switch. And COVID, surprisingly, is becoming this kind of igniter of actually people realizing, oh shit, we can actually do work from home, we can save millions of dollars, and we can be more efficient than we ever used to be, and we give more freedom to our employees. That's obviously idealistic look at. I'm looking at idealistically how things are rolling so far, but what I know for sure is that technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality will definitely provide those tools in the future, which will allow people to be more efficient and spend less time in MTA. And basically, that's a chance for the industry, and it pushes the industry in the right direction. So happy about that from this perspective.
Prior to COVID, there was no talk about AR, VR. You couldn't come into the room when it came to educational technology and talk about AR, VR because it was unacceptable. That's not the proper way to learn. And overnight, people are trying to figure out how to use AR, VR to recreate lab experiences, to recreate art experiences. And I thought that was very interesting that it went from a conversation that was impossible to have because no one could think of a scenario where that would be something that was needed. And then within a day or a week or so, now everyone's like, oh, well, in this case scenario, what we're dealing with right now, look how this is possible. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, a really cool comment. Just one comment about that. So all of a sudden now everybody is thinking about AR and VR. Just one kind of, to be cautious here. Honestly, I wish it happened a bit later. Technologically, if I can say so, technologically, VR is just a bit, maybe 2 years behind from providing the level of social interaction which would be acceptable for the businesses, for instance, right? And at the same time, AR even further out, probably 5 years to 10 years. So that's what I'm trying to say is that it's going to take us a while to get there, right? So it's not going to be overnight, unfortunately, but we'll get there. And hopefully, if people are more patient, and at the same time, they see in the long term, these industries, the new industries, will definitely create a great benefit for the society.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see like how fast we're going to grow from this pandemic, like in the next like just even 1 year, because of like the amount, like every time there's a war, every time there's something like that sparks like a huge change, it's gonna excel like technology in ways that we've never seen. And it's kind of insane that we're living through like this kind of like technological almost like war, but like in the sense of like industrialization and kind of growing.
Great. So, I mean, what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of positive things that are going to come out of the tech industry within the next 5 to 10 years. But I know we spoke a little bit about it, but what challenges do you anticipate within the tech industry?
I think one of the challenges that will come out of this is how people learn and the affordability of schools. I think that, the MIT, Stanfords that have, huge endowments or partnerships with like huge tech companies are going to be okay. I think that the LaGuardias that have, great grants with the city and all these, great programs that you guys have will be okay. And I actually think that your school won't be okay. I think it'll be better than okay, because a lot of people that might have said they don't want to go to a 2-year school won't have a choice. And right, you guys will have the opportunity to have even more tech courses and even more training courses. So most people will be priced out of a lot of other schools. I think that a lot of these small, really expensive private schools will probably, shut down. And I think that the schools like yours will have a better value. And I think that most people will now look to your type of institution to be the front runner on training the next round of people that are going into technology. I think a lot of people will also choose getting more certifications and boot camps instead of getting a bachelor's or a master's, because they just won't be able to afford them. And I think that a lot of people will be excluded, but the saving grace will be that, the MIT Stanfords offer a lot of courses for free online. So I think that there's going to be a lot more people in the space. But from an educational standpoint, I think that you guys may have, potentially double the amount of people trying to get into your school.
I think definitely we're gonna really see the shift of like, so yeah, I'm from the LaGuardia Tech Hire Open Code, and like my background was like partially in tech. Well, I was from tech, and then I kind of switched off for a little bit into kind of like economics. I worked for a fashion company after, and then after that, when I moved to LA, I did another boot camp. I did Codesmith, and that like I switched stacks from that. And I think like in general now, like there's gonna be like a huge change in like the stigma from like going from like I guess like a diverse background, or from being like self-taught, or from boot camp versus getting a 4-year degree. And like seeing this, like I think like even in the fall, where a lot of like universities, for example, like USC, my cousin was supposed to go there in the fall, but like they closed for the pandemic for like the whole year. So I think a lot of students in general are gonna like have a second thought about like going into university, and like that whole like trade-off of a 4-year degree versus the ability to like go to a boot camp and also learn how to like teach yourself and just kind of access and like constantly like be able to like learn on your own. And like while you're at the job, like it's gonna be so like important and crucial, and it's gonna change the hiring processes as more, as there's a larger demand in tech workers.
If I could also add, so far we've described this rosy picture of what's going to happen with the tech. There are also potential other factors which we need to account for. For instance, potentially economic downturn, global economic downturn, and respectively USA. If that happens, then all industries will suffer, including the tech industry. And also the funding will be distributed between the tech industries differently, in a different way. So as a result, the students, current and the future students, may find it more difficult to actually get the job they want during these transition times until the tech companies figure out what they do, right? For instance, right now, if you look at the industry, you'll see a lot of tech companies not hiring, right? Because they're waiting, what's gonna happen now? So that's the other side of things, and you guys just need to account for that and kind of, manage from there. I'm sure if you're a great expert or you are promising professional, you'll find your way. It's just one thing. There will be the short-term, potentially short-term moment when it's going to be pretty hard. And if the economy goes into decline, if there is a recession, for instance, tech industry is a better positioned industry than many other industries. So that's a good news.
So thank you for that. I think we have a question from Damien, who's raising his hand.
Hi, I'm Damien, currently at work. Well, in the medical field, I wanted to ask, how do you feel technology will implement the medical field? Like, say me, I'm just new to technology. I just started learning how to figure out a computer, but I want to dive in deeper. As I heard about the lab ARV, I guess, virtual stuff, I'm thinking that will help be used in the medical industry. If not is already used, but how do you think I could get into it or be well prepared, I guess?
So yeah, it depends if I understand the question right, how to get into VR, AR in the medical industry, is it correct? Okay, so it also depends on what type of professional you are. If you're a coder, it's one way. Are you a coder or you're doing something else?
Nah, no coder. I can't bother with the coder business.
Yeah, so that's the problem. I can only speak for tech guys, unfortunately, right? So there is a very direct path into VR, no matter whether it's a medical industry or other industries. You just learn Unity, you learn Unreal Engine. For other professionals, how to get into VR, I guess it's just get excited about it and learn more. And as industry growth, you'll see the opportunities. And speaking of medical, there is a lot of stuff going on right now in medical. Actually, it's a great AR, VR, great visualization tool, which allows also remote collaboration between people. For instance, it's anatomy, it's teledoc and things like that. So there is a lot there, but unfortunately, it's for every professional, given your background, for you to decide how to get there. Sorry, I can't be more specific.
That's all right.
Thank you, David.
One thing I would add to that is that a lot of the tech jobs, I'll put them in two different categories, right? There's the ones that are like the hardcore computer science, and there's the ones that are more, sorry for the noise in the background. There's like two paths. One that's like really hardcore computer science, and then there's the one that's more of like UI, UX, and more of like web design. The latter, you still need to have a basic understanding of a lot of the concepts in computer science. But if you're talking about things like AR, VR, in the medical field, there's a lot of technology around digital x-rays, and doctors are using all types of tools. Like I worked on a tool once where doctors could basically plug your symptoms into this software, and that software would scan 50,000 medical journals to help them give you a proper diagnosis. But to build that software, someone had to learn how to code in order to get all that information in there. So there are different opportunities, but I think one thing you have to figure out is how hands-on with the tech you want to be. And if the answer is you want to be, less hands-on with with the coding, then you kind of got to figure out which ones won't have you do as much of the hardcore coding. And as the other panelists said, even if you want to do like UI stuff, you still need to understand, you know, certain aspects of technology and computer science. So I would definitely take some time and try to figure out, okay, you know, what are the 3 types of technology that you want to marry into the field you're in, which it sounds like you're in the medical field. So if there's 3 different, you know, jobs you want, or 3 different types of technology that you want to work around, try to figure out how heavy you have to be on the coding and the computer science, and then see where you can kind of fit that to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a spot to do something that you hate. Because one thing that happens with you know, all types of jobs, whether it be accounting or technology, is that folks here, you know, this is a great field, and then they get into that first class, and it's just like, wait, 5 textbooks. And it's happened to me too, right? I got into my first hardcore computer science class. I went through all the early ones, and I'm like, you know what, this is easy. And then I got to a class on cryptology and basically how to code so that nobody could, you know, break into your program. I had to go buy 5 books. There was 10 of us in the class, and each book was all zeros, ones, and math. There was probably like 2 actual coding assignments, and it was all understanding math. And within 2 days, I was out of that class and into something else, right? But a lot of it is trial and error and trying to figure out, you know, what you're going to do, how you're going to get there, but it has to work for you. Like, that's the main thing. Like, you got to find your comfort zone.
Thank you for that information. Thank you for that information, Khalil. So I did want to shift gears a little bit because we are running low on time. So a lot of our students are students who are going towards their 2-year degree, their associate's degree, or maybe are completing a boot camp course like Tech Hire. What are some advice or some takeaways that you may have for our students who are looking to go into the field? Like, you know, someone mentioned you got to have grit. So what are some of those traits that you think will help someone be successful? I mentioned, I heard a lot mentioned around networking as well, and taking on roles and putting yourself out there. So these are just some of the things that I've heard that have echoed through this panel. So I'm just wondering what advice or takeaways can you have for our students who are completing who are going to be going into their 2-year programs or their certification programs?
I can start this one off easily. Being someone who did the 2-year college, did the boot camps, and now teach incoming boot camp students. One thing I will definitely piggyback off the last thing that was said is about research. Do your research into what you're going into. Just because someone says that it's the new hot field and you get paid X amount of dollars doesn't mean that it's the thing for you. Everybody wants to be a UX designer, and I think that at some point people forget that UX design still work. So I see a lot of burnout in the boot camp stage, and a lot of burnout in the middle or the early part of it, when people realize like, oh, this is a lot of work. I don't know if this is what I want to do specifically. Definitely do a lot of research to figure out what it is that whatever role that you're going into is going to do, what aspects of the job it is that you're going to have to partake in, figure out what it is that you want to do, figure out what it is that you don't want to do at the beginning, and understand that as you go through, that will change as well too. You can decide you want to go in and, like me, I was a traditional artist. I was going to paint and draw for the rest of my life. I do not paint or draw right now for my career. I mostly do coding and I mostly do UX design. And secondly, with networking, I think one of the more important things that you need to know, especially post boot camp life and coming out of college or whatever, is that the certification doesn't get you the job. You have to be able to go out and be able to tell your story. You have to be able to go out and be able to say what it is that you want to do, what makes you unique, what it is about you that a company needs, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for something that they need when they're hiring people. I did the whole throw your resume into an ATS and pray that somebody, you know, gets back to you whenever. And it took 6 months before I actually found like a role that I like. with networking, go out, talk to people, just have conversations and see what it is that you're more geared towards and tailor your path towards what it is that you want to do. Don't just do what it is that you think you should do because that's what everyone else does. So yeah.
Thank you for that, Kelly.
Yeah, I also I agree that like you really have to, before you like join a program, you have to really like understand what your initial goals are and really know what you're like. Even before like attending like a coding boot camp, I think it's a good idea to like look at jobs that are currently there and save them, and just like look at the descriptions and like be like, oh, like this is kind of like what I want to do. Or like if you want to start your own company, just kind of like study a lot of like current like tech startups and like their structures and like what it actually takes. And like throughout the whole program or the whole process, or even like throughout, say you decide to go into like a 4-year, throughout your entire like college, like you should always like kind of understand why you're there and not and kind of also realize that you shouldn't let a piece of paper define who you are or who you can be, or but in also another sense, like it shouldn't define like just because like you have this degree or you have like this qualification, it doesn't make you like any more like above someone with the same like technical skill set and the ability who doesn't have the same piece of paper.
Thank you. Would you say it's possible, guys, for our students who are earning their HSC degrees to be able to get a job with their associates?
Yes.
And I only ask that because there's so many students who come to our office and say, "Hey, Cheryl, I need something that as soon as I finish, I can get some kind of job." Because of course, you know, we have students who have jobs or need to support their families, or and they want to continue their education, right? So one of the main things sometimes students ask me is, when I finish with this degree, is it possible for me to get a job? Can I get an entry-level position and then build on it?
I'll make a comment on that. My mom teaches in a college, and one piece of advice that she's always given me before I even got to high school was that you don't go looking for your job based off of what degree that you're going to get, and you don't wait till you get the degree to look for it. So even before you get your 2-year, you should be pounding the pavement and looking at opportunities and seeing where it is that you want to actually be. And if there's an opportunity or a job opening, there's nothing stopping you from saying to whoever has posted that, recruiters, hiring managers, and saying, hey, you know, I'm really interested in this position. I'm working on X, Y, and Z right now. There's nothing stopping you from that. And recruiters and employers who are open to hiring someone will be like, you know what, I like your background. I like what it is that you're doing. I like what it is that you're going to be doing soon. You could possibly get hired before you get the 2-year degree. So a 2-year degree doesn't stop anyone from getting it.
Kelly, can I just add? I 100% agree. I'll just give you one example. 4 years ago, we hired a guy who was, freshman at the college, and he's doing computer science. And he turned out to be like amazing guy, like really smart, very hardworking. And now he's 21 and he became a partner in our company just because how awesome he is, and he didn't graduate yet. So that's like to this point, like start as early as you can, especially if you have a passion.
And one thing I want to add to that, because I think all these points are like super great, and these are things I wish I heard, you know, when I was coming up through school, is that one, this is definitely like an exciting time. And in the age of the internet, you can literally scour the internet and figure out any information you need, like it's there. So one of the panelists mentioned like looking up, you know, the profiles and the backgrounds of people and things that you want to join. You can save yourself a lot of heartache by saying, okay, I want to be a venture technologist, and you can Google what a venture technologist is and figure out what they do on a day-to-day basis, what the requirements are, and then you can figure out for yourself if you want that or not. You can also find, if you're doing like actual coding workshops or a boot camp, you can go on the MIT or the Harvard website and get free extra work to really reinforce what you're doing. And if you get the opportunity to do internships or any kind of, you know, paid or unpaid work, it's really important that you treat those opportunities as actual jobs. So show up on time, be professional in your dress, your speak, show enthusiasm, because as one of the panelists mentioned, if you show that you're really about that with any opportunity that you're given, people will notice. And if I'm passionate about something and you show that same passion, I may give you a job or an internship or any kind of opportunity or pass your name around, and the doors will open up. A lot of the networking that we do is more informal than formal. You may be in different rooms with people with suits on, but a lot of the networking too is going around sending emails out and just asking for an opportunity. And the best way that you can kind of nail those opportunities and secure those opportunities is being the best version of yourself, whether it's giving your best to your assignments, being on time, and just carrying yourself as if you already have the job that you want. And then people will definitely notice that as well. So a lot of this is really in your control. It's just a matter of like seizing those opportunities.
Thank you so much for that, Khalil. Alrighty, guys. So we're gonna shift gears just a little bit and briefly discuss some of the majors that are offered at LaGuardia Community College. So we've heard about so many different careers during this panel. You've heard some of the panelists mention that they were an information technology major, computer science major, computer technology major, or maybe someone started off in fashion design and then shifted gears, right? So we know that the technology field is not just a ladder, right? Or a straight line. There's many different paths to kind of get to where you want to go. There's front end, there's back end, there's full stack engineering, all of these terminologies that were thrown out here today. At LaGuardia, we offer over 60 plus majors. But here we're going to focus more so on, of course, technology. So we have our computer technology, our computer science, our new media technology, and programming and software development. To briefly just highlight just a couple of these, if you're going to go into programming and software development, this program prepares students for a career in computer programming with a concentration in Unix or web programming. And computer programmers write code and create softwares based on the ideas and designs of software developers. Let's look a bit at the new media technology track. This program provides students for varied careers in new media, including webmaster, multimedia applications developer, internet programmer, streaming video, and digital film producer. This major is perfect for those who are technically creative. So our concentration there are the concentrations there are the entrepreneurship track, digital media track, and digital journalism. And we do kind of highlight some of the certifications that fall under each bracket and some of the job title opportunities that you may have depending on which field you may have entered. If we talk a little bit about computer technology, this curriculum provides the skills needed for careers in a rapidly growing technical area. Students will be prepared for careers as field technicians specializing in microcomputer repair and network diagnosis. This map is developed by our office, and we're more than happy to share it with everyone who logged in today or anyone who watches this video and would like to receive more information. Also, what else is important when you're thinking about going into a new career or choosing a major is this labor market information, right? Because once you start college, you want to think about or keep in the back of your mind is, will there be a job when I graduate, right? And as you heard the panelists say, the technology field will be booming, but on the other hand, some parts of the field are maybe just a bit behind and are playing catch up. What will happen in 2025 or 2027 or 2024 when you graduate? Will there be jobs available? And of course, things change every year, right? But here, if you can see the first chart above, this is basically showing you, just if you focus over here, when you finish, will there be jobs available? And as you can see, it's kind of going, it's on an incline. So the chances are that there is a good chance that when you graduate one of these degrees, that you'll be able to find work, right? And some of the top technological occupations that we saw when doing our research was software developers, Amazon web developers, application programmers, IT, and front-end developers. On the left-hand side of this chart here, you can see we kind of break down a few more terms or roles. The web developers, computer network, web design, network administration. And then we kind of we break down a bit further. Well, if you're a software developer, how much could you potentially be earning? And we kind of break down the gender breakdown of how many males versus females are on the field. And these numbers, it's kind of low for females. So, girls can code too. And I'm sure we're all interested also in tech as well. So let's push through into this industry, girls.
So one of the terms that I kind of briefly glossed over or mentioned was a certification. When I was going over the degree map and sharing with you the information regarding all the majors, in each sector, there was a listing of some of the certifications that could possibly be offered at LaGuardia, whether it fell under the new media technology section, whether it fell under the computer technology or programming and software development section. Each one of those has a certification program that you can enroll in. But what is a certification program? Certification programs are designed to give students mastery over a narrow subject area or topic. These programs are offered in many trades, professional fields, and academic areas. The difference between a certification and a degree program, like an associate's degree, is that these certifications, you can enroll in them, and within 3, 6, or 12 or so months, you can walk away with a certification saying that you have mastery in this area. Now, the great thing is that this can be compounded with your degree. Right? There's no right way of doing things. Whatever path you take is your own. It's like a cycle, right? So you can start with a certification program. And then the great thing too is that some of these certification programs give you credits, 3 or 6 or so credits that you can then use towards your degree. Right? So it's like, let's say, for example, you decided I'm going to take this Tech Hire open code program, or I'm going to take any of the other certification programs. And then when I finish, one of these programs may give me credits towards my degree. Well, I was able to find a job, and now this job is going to pay for me to go to college. So great. I started with my certification. I earned some credits. I got a job. This job is going to help me pay for school. I'm going to enroll in school. And then I'm just going to stack that, add that to what I already have, or vice versa, right? You can say, well, no, I think I'm going to go for my 2-year degree. I'm going to go and earn my associate's degree. But then when you graduate, you can say, you know what, let me take advantage of some of these certification programs that are being offered at LaGuardia and compound that with my degree. So you can make yourself more marketable. You can fine-tune your skill, right? So it can go either way. It's a never-ending cycle of education, of growth, of mastery, and regardless as to which field you go into, there's all these different options available to make you more marketable and get you into the field or get you into the position that you want to achieve, right? So again, I really want to take the time to just thank everyone for watching. Thank everyone who tuned in during the live panel. Thank our panelists. You guys were awesome and gave so much great information. All of this information is available to you, our viewer. We can share the degree map information with you via email, and of course send you the bios of each of our panelists. If you want more information on the majors that are offered, how to get into the college, how to pay for college, what certifications are being offered, we're more than happy to help you with that information. Or even if you just want to take an assessment or learn more about labor market information within that respective field that you're researching, please feel free to reach out. Our contact information is below, or you can comment in the comment section under this YouTube video. Again, thank you for tuning in.